This book came out of a program called Quest, Quantifying and Understanding the Earth System, I think out of the UK, which was all focused on land, vegetation, ecosystem, sea level rise, but not so much on the ocean. Obviously, ocean ecosystems and the adaptation and mitigation would come in through reducing direct impact of ocean acidification and of course fishing impacts and so on. But when it comes to understanding the biophysical and biogeochemical feedbacks, marine ecosystem plays obviously a big role. Ocean itself takes up more than 90% of the excess energy from anthropogenic greenhouse gas impacts. So I wanted to just put one module in for the marine ecosystem, since I am more from the marine side. So this is from this review paper looking at model of ecosystem processes. Ocean circulation we looked at briefly in terms of wind-driven circulation, which is very critical in terms of upwelling or downwelling. So in the subtropical gyres we have convergence and water being pushed down, so light is wasted in some sense. So they are deserts of the ocean, and happens where the Hadley cell sinks, just as where the land deserts are in terms of where the Hadley cell sinks. But in the upwelling regions, especially in the open ocean and the coastal oceans, as well as higher latitudes where you have winter dynamics of deepening surface turbulent layers which entrain nutrients, and then they get shallow when the sun comes up in spring and summer, and they drive what are called spring blooms and so on. Entire upper trophic level that we are interested in terms of fish, pelagic consumers are dependent on that lower trophic levels, which the models try to represent. So in terms of history, the original predator-prey models of marine ecosystems started as simple so-called NPZD models, nutrient, phytoplankton, zooplankton, and detritus kind of boxes. Over time, they have gotten more and more sophisticated and complicated, and they obviously have to do exchange of gases with the atmosphere like CO2 and nitrogen. A lot of the nitrate that drives production in primary production in the ocean is produced by the so-called nitrogen fixers, which can take dinitrogen and convert it into preformed nutrients like nitrate, which are used by phytoplankton like diatoms and flagellates and so on. So on land also you have what are called plant functional types. Okay, they are classified into tropical rainforests, temperate forests, tundra, boreal forests, and so on, which are very broad classifications, but there are many details. In the ocean also, you can either do them as class sizes, so large phytoplankton, small phytoplankton, large zooplankton, small zooplankton, and so on, or you can do them as functional types like diatoms, flagellates, and so on. And you cascade that marine primary production into lower level consumers like macrozooplankton, jellies which are filter feeders, and then you have mesozooplankton. Then you have export as detritus, which is labile, which means it's reactive, or refractory, which is not so reactive. So ocean carries boxes like particulate organic matter, dissolved organic matter, particulate organic carbon, dissolved organic carbon, and dissolved inorganic carbon. So just CO2 and bicarbonates and carbonates and so on. And there is transfer energy from the forage level, zooplankton and small fish to big fish. right? So you have a food chain. There are fish that eat other fish, and there are fish that eat zooplankton, or they eat at the bottom, and so on. So you have the benthic food web, and you have microbial loops as well, bacteria which eat things and reproduce nutrients like nitrate, nitrite, ammonium, and so on. And at the bottom also you have redox layer, which is converting oxygen, and you have oxygenated water, and so on. So there are biodiversities which are much higher in the benthos, because the environmental variability is high, whereas the pelagic environment doesn't vary that much because the heat content of the water is very high, so it's not easy to change the temperature rapidly, even though now we talk about heat waves in the ocean which are having huge ecological impacts. You can look at the blob in the Gulf of Alaska, for example, which has become discussed a lot now and has large impacts, and may be part of the climate change response in the ocean as well. So you have nutrient cycling, food web interactions, microbial loop, which is critical part of the marine ecosystem dynamics, and carbon cycle. Just like on land, you have a microbial system in soil. It is said that in 1 spoon of soil there are more microbes than animals in the whole world, and so on. So microbial loop is critical. Pelagic benthic coupling, detritus formation. So you have carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus. In the ocean there is also something special called the Redfield ratio, where in the water typically the ratio of carbon to nitrogen to phosphorus is fairly constant, something like 106 to 16 to 1. And when the waters are away from the Redfield ratio, you have to figure out how that's happening, because even when you look at the phytoplankton, they are taking up nutrients in the same ratio. So of course the question is, what came first, whether the nutrient ratio got fixed in the water and phytoplankton converted it, or did phytoplankton somehow begin to take up nutrients in a certain ratio, and over time through these loops they began to control the C/N/P ratio, or the Redfield ratio in the water. Of course the latter seems more likely. Okay, so there are predator-prey interactions which can be very nonlinear and produce nonlinear solutions, microbial interactions, and nutrient exchanges. And you have various ecosystems. You have upwelling zones, you have the warm water zones where you have certain types of tuna, you have the subtropical gyre regions where you have certain ecosystem, you have coral ecosystems, you have coastal ecosystems, and so on. And with the global warming, the upper ocean gets typically warmer, increases the gradient between the surface turbulent mixed water versus the deeper, colder water. So that gradient that we call thermocline, in case you don't know, look up my podcast on YouTube channel. That increases, so the stratification gets stronger, means mixing up these nutrients is going to get harder. So we have to understand whether that's going to decrease the primary production and impact the entire food system, or other species like nitrogen fixers are going to begin to dominate because they don't need the preformed nutrients. They can just use dinitrogen or N2. Right? So these are the marine ecosystem issues that I just wanted to introduce briefly, so that the adaptation and mitigation issues, especially in terms of biophysical and biogeochemical feedbacks, are massive from the marine ecosystem, because ocean can export and store carbon if it can continue to be productive, and it has 2 pumps. One is called the solubility pump, where the temperature and pressure effects determine how much carbon is dissolved and how it's circulated with upwelling and downwelling. And it has a biological pump where biology fixes CO2 into organic matter and then can export it or get reformed into inorganic carbon and be brought back up. So we have to understand both the solubility pump response to global warming, as well as biological pump response, and we have to understand the impacts of ocean acidification on things like diatoms and coccolithophorids and corals and so on, which are very critical for overall productivity and biodiversity. So that's the story of the marine ecosystem.